Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Matthew Millais Gray, just like the name featured in this channel. And I thought what we could do today is take a look at the situation in South Africa as a kind of precedent for other territories within the world regarding a high control religion. So here's the scenario. In South Africa, if a religious authority with the power to discipline a person, to make things very, very difficult for a person, that authority instructs the person to commit an illegal act that is also denounced by that religion, that high control religious authority's own top authority in its headquarters. Should this be left, or how should this be handled? So let's just repeat that. In South Africa, or you could say Ireland, is another example. If a religious authority instructs a person under pain of its full power to discipline that person, tells them they may commit an illegal act, and in fact they are expected to be obeyed, but that illegal act is denounced by its top authority as well as the law of the land. How should this be handled? Should it be left? Well, within Jehovah's Witnesses, which has been my experience, it is expected that if you see or know of a crime or a situation of coercion, that it should not be left unaddressed. In fact, it is scriptural to actually report it. Now, in South Africa, as in most legal systems, the law takes precedence over religious directives. Jehovah's Witnesses know this only too well. If you think about those that have gone through what is called DB, detention barracks. South African history is one where Jehovah's Witnesses sought to uphold their objections, conscientious objections, under pain of governmental discipline. And so many went to prison or faced disciplinary action for upholding doctrine. Of course, that changed in South Africa, and those kind of issues or those kind of dynamics which were making it very difficult for Jehovah's Witnesses stopped. But we're not talking about a law in which the very top Jehovah's Witnesses disagree with. In fact, the top Jehovah's Witnesses have directed that this particular law or issue is off limits. They say that under oath, and you can look back in some of the videos that are on this channel about a typical example of that, and I've used the matter of corporal punishment, where the governing body says, no, that isn't something that you follow. You must find alternative means to discipline children. Why? Because it's a problem in many jurisdictions or regions. But we have a situation where, such as like this year and in past years, where now elders who come under the governing body direction decided that they would interpret old information or use old information from the mid to late 1990s and reinforce this matter of corporal punishment. In other words, they were now telling the congregation, oh, you must obey us whether we are right or whether we are wrong, because we are infallible, but we represent God's authority. You must obey, irrespective of what the governing body says. And so because the disciplinary penalty is high regarding social shunning, which has a domino effect to all kinds of parts of a person's life, from income to intimacy to all sorts of things. The persons that see these kind of criminal directives, or these alleged directives that go against law, they become very fearful about trying to correct things. Because invariably what happens now is when elders realize that they have created a liability path, potential liability path, they get afraid. Or they get stubborn and try to say, well, you know, that was a direction that has come from the governing body, and therefore we uphold the governing body. Trying to say that they are confused somehow, that they don't know that the governing body under oath, or at least one member, Jeffrey Jackson, has said, no, this is not something that we should do. And even worse, that when a person has reported this to the branch, that the branch agrees and processes the incident or incidents to the governing body. They've actually agreed. But your local elders have decided to take punitive measures. Now, I've heard somebody say this is like a gang. This is like a street gang coming unannounced to your house, which is what's actually happened in practical terms, coming unannounced and essentially demanding that they are obeyed, or else. And if you obey, well, then you will have our full support. It's an incredible situation, because the directives, not just Jeffrey Jackson under oath, the directive from the branch's service desk was to correct those elders. But they've bucked, and they've bucked because they've got a lot to lose. They can lose their authority, which they feel that they've worked very hard for, and also the kind of opportunities where they're able to use the system, rightly or wrongly, to generate business. Now, many might say, well, Jehovah's Witnesses, wow, you know, it's all about the business. You know, is it wrong to generate business? You know, many might be surprised by the real estate transactions and things that are going on, but is that technically illegal? We need to be very careful, because people need to have some kind of means of income. They need that. And so just because you have maybe a coordinator of a body of elders who's being given a lot of information, it does give them an advantage. They can see when maybe an elderly brother or sister has lost a mate and they've become too old or too frail, and they say, well, you know, I need help in, you know, getting to an old age home, and I need to sell up. What invariably happens, or can happen, is it presents opportunities. So a Kobe could, if they want, say, well, you know, times are tough for selling businesses, but I tell you what, I'll take it off your hands, or I'll make an arrangement to take it off your hands, and it's lower than your normal rate, or something like that. And somehow with psychology, the person feels very indebted to the coordinator and lets them have it. And of course, that's the advantage that's given. And perhaps even the person says, yes, I know this is going to, you know, give you an advantage. I don't mind that happening. I want you to be able to sell this if you can and make something on it. And I'm not particularly greedy or anything like that. I'd like you to benefit if you can actually help me. But the point is that there's those kind of advantages, and to lose authority in such an ecosystem could mean losing those kind of advantages. So persons wouldn't want to easily find that, oh yeah, they've gotten into trouble with their own governing body, and so now they rally together, friends among the body, cliques among the body, where there have been joint business ventures together, and they defend the congregation in such a way that even the branch and the governing body goes, ooh, we have to apply the various ways to distance ourselves from the congregation while still controlling it. So here's the question, again, as a refresher, because it is not easy for me to talk about these complex subjects without talking more or expanding a bit more. So again, I'm going to repeat, is this the third time now? In South Africa, or a jurisdiction where there's a law that it's illegal to do something, and I've chosen this law of corporal punishment, right? In South Africa, if a religious authority instructs a person to commit an illegal act, whatever it is, could be corporal punishment, it could be to take something through a border post, for instance, to a translation office or to a missionary home or something, or to smuggle something in, whatever it is. In South Africa, if the religious authority instructs a person to commit an illegal act that is also officially denounced by its top authority in its headquarters, should this be left? In other words, let's turn a blind eye. Or we remember, oh, we've got a rafter in our own eye. This is just a small thing. Look at all the pressure that they are creating. I think I'll capitulate, because that's the force of the Holy Spirit working upon imperfect people. And so there's this rationalizing that goes on that creates a double bind or a conflict within the psychology of a person that is very difficult to manage. So, should it be left? Think about this for essential critical thinking and analysis. How about this for an answer? No! No, it should not be left unaddressed. In South Africa, as in most legal systems, the law takes precedence over religious directives. So here's a few important points to think about in considering how to handle the situation. Legal responsibility trumps religious orders, especially if the top part of the religious authority has said, no, you cannot do this thing. No religious leader, no elder, or if you want to say sub-elder underneath governing body or shareholders or whoever's controlling things. No elder or leader in a religious authoritative position who can inflict disciplinary action upon its associates or upon its members, however you want to frame it. I know we should lean towards the word associates. No religious authority or leader in the congregation, local congregation, can legally compel or coerce, though they can try it, someone to commit a crime. So following such instructions doesn't provide legal immunity. So if I was to now say, yes, you're wrong, but now I'm obedient to you, I let it go. I demonstrate that I must show humility, your version of humility. I must show a repentance towards you because you represent God's authority, though you're imperfect. Right? And you tell me that the only way that I will get support from you is if I comply with your rule that breaks the law, that breaks the governing body's direction. That internal contradiction does not protect me. It doesn't protect anybody that is fearfully remaining in that congregational structure. So even if the top authority of the religious organization officially denounces the act, like at the Australian Royal Commission with Jeffrey Jackson, local leaders instructing illegal behavior still pose a risk to me, to anybody who now is coerced or directed or misled into that situation. It's a risk. So the denouncement at headquarters, world headquarters, New York, by the governing body, by whoever's in control, the legal department with the governing body, with the shareholders, with whoever's pulling the strings. The denouncement at headquarters does not retroactively absolve someone who followed illegal instructions. They are responsible under the law. If somebody from Malawi who has different laws about, let's say, corporal punishment as the example that I'm plugging, they get onto South African soil and they lose it with a child, thinking that that is an act of love and an act of obedience to the leadership. And South Africa, by its definition, says, "Oh, you have crossed the line. Not only have you committed a crime, but there's also a liability, a potential liability, if there is that direction. Somebody is directed to physically harm another. It can be considered attempted or actual assault." So yeah, some persons can apply corporal punishment softly, I suppose, and some can lose it. Especially, I would say, in the situations that I have seen. I have seen just over the top things done, and those ones still feel that they've been loving. They feel that they are chastising in a way that is an act of love. So, do we do nothing? That's the question. So I don't know how many times I've asked that here, so bear with me. Is it 4 or 5 times? Failure to report or act could implicate the person in criminal liability. So are there legal protections in South Africa? Well, again, we talk about South Africa having the perfect law, right? But having a perfect law and South Africans or enforcement agencies or lawyers or courts actually upholding that is another thing altogether. So the Constitution, on paper, in the books, guarantees freedom of religion. So it does not allow breaking of the law. The religious freedom or freedom of speech does not allow breaking of the law. It doesn't allow for this coercive religious street gang idea where persons can rock up any time they like because they feel they own you. They tell Matthew Millais Gray, "You are society property." You're not owned by yourself. You're not a free agent. You're owned by us. That's why we can hold your passport. We can say to you, surrender your passport for safekeeping. We can hold it. We've demonstrated that. That's how much power we have. We have so much power that we can go into your family home and live there. Because all assets belong to us. You think these assets are yours? No, they're not. They are Jehovah God's. And the governing body controls all assets. And the governing body controls these elders. These same elders that they're trying to disavow, they are connected to. We own you. And I have been told this. I have been told I am society property. I have been told I am organization property. That's why I have been to different countries under assignment. Lesotho, Eswatini, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Malawi. I've gone to America, gone to Sri Lanka, gone to many places around the world under assignment. I was instructed. My next assignment is potentially London, UK. I was told my next assignment is Israel. I was told I've got to go to Ireland. I was told I've got to go to Scotland. By which time I had put my foot down and gone, no, I'm not doing this anymore. Because I can see that this thing of abuse is just not being addressed. I'm just being pulled into something else, and it's just distracting. It's not getting to the root harms. I cannot keep doing this. So myself, I refused the illegal instruction. I decided I have to, on this, stop this. At least with myself. I'm making a choice for myself. I'm not going to force anybody else. And the way I'm going to make this choice is I'm putting my foot down. Not to say, oh, I will not do it. If you're telling me I must beat a child, here it is. I will do it if it means obeying God Almighty. I will do it. And you're going, Matt, what are you saying? Are you saying you will break the law? I am saying I will be governed by this supreme authority of the universe. If the supreme authority of the universe tells me, go beat a child, I will beat a child. But I want to make sure that that is what is expected. And so when I hear from the governing body that no, that is not what is expected, you can be sure I am going to clarify that. Not just for myself, but for others that are involved. And I'm saying, okay, well, others are afraid to come forward. If I am there counseling other people, I better be prepared to do it. I better be prepared to obey that law that is coming from the local elders, and I better get a rod and beat a child as a precedent. Because if I am now taking that side and not prepared to do it, that is hypocrisy. I better be prepared to go to prison. I better be prepared like those ones that were in DB in South Africa for a conscientious objection. I better be prepared to put, so the saying goes, the money where the mouth is. Jehovah's Witnesses know how to make stands. They do this if they are born-ins at a school level. They will refuse to eat birthday cake. They will refuse to salute a flag. They will refuse to get involved in sports activities, extracurricular activities as directed by the school brochure. They have made stands since they can remember. If it comes to surgery, I've had this. I've had to make stands about blood issue myself. I mean, huge operations in my life. I've had to make those stands, and I've gone, I will choose death And I don't expect the audience to go, "Ooh, Matt, what? So you have fallen into this thing about the blood issue, and you are prepared to lose your life." I do not expect you to agree with me. I am saying I was 100% immersed in the psychology, completely supportive. And yes, I have done that and survived. Not just one operation. I've been in hospital many times. I've made that stand. And I can tell you, I didn't expect to survive. Didn't expect it. So you talk about death. I lost fear of death a long time ago. Lost it. So this compliancy thing, I know I can speak for myself, which is what I'm going to have to do. Can't speak for others. I have to speak for myself. I was prepared to go, if that is the direction supported from the governing body, I will do it and face the penalty. I have been asked if I have ever beaten a child. And the answer is yes. I have beaten a child. It was in a country with different laws, and I was a custodian of children because of very strange situation, because there was panic and there was abandonment, and I had to look after children. And I looked after them as they were my own, fed them, looked after them. And when those children rebelled and got into drugs and got into all kinds of terrible situations, I contacted the school administration for where I was in that country. And the headmaster of that school, I know, was somebody who didn't like Europeans. He was known as somebody who hated whites. And I made an appointment with him. And I said to him, I have a problem. You know, in this community, as a chief, you're not just a headmaster. You are installed as somebody who's connected to intelligence. Some say that you're a central intelligence operative. I believe that. And your role in the school is to look after not just the school, but to look after community. So I know you've got your eye on me. Now I need to ask you for advice. I have children that are wayward and are out of control, and I'm making you aware of it. What is the law in this country? And at that time, it was beat the child a certain way, not in a violent way. And I made sure that I did this under supervision. And so I did that. And I remember the child saying to me, I hate you so much that I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to find a way to make your life miserable and then kill you. This is what the child did. Anyway, I said to them at that time, I said, well, I'm under supreme authority, direction. And I'm also under the direction of the land here. What you're doing with drugs is, it can't carry on. And the other behaviors that you're involved in, you can't let it carry on. If you're under my care, if I'm an elder here and circumstances has pushed me into a situation that I'm having to look at you as my spiritual child. That's what I'm told. I'm told you are my spiritual child, that this is spiritual family, and I've got to look at you as if you are my own, even though genetically you are not. I have to perform this. And if I go to jail because somehow you arrange that, then so be it. I have done my job. I have done my job as I believe I am supremely directed to. This is the mindset I have. And I said, and if I am killed like you're threatening me with your friends and your thug friends, I say, that's a good death. I said, I'm going to be resurrected because that's God's promise, right? I said, but will you be resurrected? I said, I will come back from the grave because that's the belief. And I will know that I had done what I could to uphold the right thing. I said, but what about you? I said, yeah. I said, that is the sacrifice I'm prepared to make. I'm prepared to go to prison, or I'm prepared to die. What about you? I said, that, as far as I can see, is the law of love, the law of the Christ. Christ sacrifices himself. I said, and that's what I've been taught to do. Now, look, I'm giving this story. I don't expect anybody to agree with me, and I can also fully comprehend that saying something like this in a public forum can really stir the pot. But I said that the way that I'm going to tackle this is with the truth. So this is the situation I was in. Anyway, that story was such that I managed to find the nearest living relatives, and those children were sent to nearest living relatives. It was a very hard project to do, but eventually it was done. And I also made sure that when those children were now placed in their nearest living relative, that they were located and relocated, that the relatives were located and they were now transferred to them properly. I also made sure that there were people on the other side monitoring things, making sure that they were welcomed and that they were safe. So I went to great lengths. And then, of course, years later, I met up with some as they became adults. And I can remember the one who threatened to kill me, became a Jehovah's Witness instructor. So yes, they entered into the special service, and they contacted me some years later and made an apology. It was an interesting thing that happened. I didn't expect that to happen, but they made an apology. And I actually saw them at the branch, but of course I was looking much older, and I actually stood right next to them and was looking in their face, but they didn't recognize me. Didn't have this, but they didn't recognize me. And at that particular time, I decided I'm not going to reveal myself if they don't recognize me. Just going to leave it. And I can say I was happy in that time that the person had been absorbed into the special order and was now an instructor. And from a Jehovah's Witness point of view, that was considered a success. That was considered, okay, right. This person is now productive as a minister, has surrendered themselves to the system, and wow, now they are instructing. Now they've got this incredible purpose. So in my heart of hearts, I was proud about it. I thought, okay, well, there's this outcome that has become a blessing. Of course, now I've gone through a lot more things, and I am in different territory, and there are different laws that apply in this region. Time has moved on as well, and things change. And so many years later, Jeffrey Jackson has gone, no, what you do, Matt, although he doesn't know my story specifically about that particular incident, it wouldn't fly. It wouldn't be endorsed. So you might say that I don't have, I don't know, freeness of speech because of my past, because of what I've done. It is what it is. And I decided I have to be responsible for these things. And I said, I have to also speak with a transparency about things I've done, whether right or whether wrong. Come 2025, we're now in the situation of contradictory information coming through a high control religious system. We are now at a situation where governments are looking into these reports of coercive control within a religion and going, ooh, does this mean that a high control religion like Jehovah's Witnesses or many others are acting as parallel sovereign entities on our soil where we are governing? And is it producing a pathway towards persons using those religious systems to commit crimes under a cloak of religion? Something that is supposed to be good, but they are using it and exploiting it to not just get personal gain, because personal gain isn't always wrong, but exploiting it and committing crimes and getting away with crimes and hiding behind the good people or the authentic people that are in that religion. And also knowing, oh, let's pick this religion because we know that its legal team will shield us if we know how to play it right. We know it's got this reputation of having an incredible legal team. We'll tie it up in knots and we will use it to protect us and to shield us so that we can continue. So yeah, that becomes a power thing, isn't it? And so this is human's darker nature. This is our shadow nature coming out. And yeah, it's difficult to address these kind of things if, like me, you've got a past where you're looking back and you're going, man, I can see my own mind being bewildered by this. I can see that I have made certain choices and I've made certain decisions, and sure, maybe I should be arrested for this. Or is it retroactive? If the law changes here, or if now you're in a different jurisdiction and you've got this kind of history and you've confessed to the world that this is what you've done, what kind of consequences are there? And I think, personally, there has to be ones who are prepared to say, all right, if I'm going to stand up and make a noise about this, I also need to show the way that I have to face accountability myself. So remember my opening question? Should nothing be done? This is something. Talking about it. So the practical approach, what is it? The safest and legally responsible course is to refuse the illegal instruction. Those elders, no, I'm refusing it. But I would like it to be taken to the next authority in the ladder. Governing body, branch, leadership, circuit overseer, whatever. And of course, yeah, through the years, I'd been doing that and getting written direction back, which I applied. And when I applied that written direction towards certain guardians, like you can think of a coordinator of a body of elders, corresponding with them trustfully, in trust, and then hearing that from the rest of the elders, no, the coordinator doesn't say that you have been corresponding. You have been doing nothing. You're a lazy guy. No, you're not interested in serving the congregation. You do nothing here. I had a circuit overseer come to talk to me. He says, Matt, you got skills in other languages. I know about this. Why aren't you serving those language groups? And I looked at him dumbfounded. I said to him, do you know, I attend 3 congregations a week. I said, I attend Chichewa speaking group, Shona speaking group. I give away talks in those languages. And I fulfill my English assignments as well. I said, what do you mean? I need to reach out for more responsibility or put myself out there. I said, if you take a look at the schedule, you'll see I'm full. I can't do more than what I'm doing. I'm looking after all sorts of things. Christian life and ministry in 3 language groups. I'm a single person. I've made that sacrifice. And he was embarrassed. And the lesson from that is never embarrass the circuit overseer. But then circuit overseers change, and that particular circuit overseer was a very difficult personality. Truly difficult personality to deal with. In my estimation, was not a humble person, was very unapproachable. People wouldn't want to work with him, and I used to work with him and put my name down to work with him, and you know what would happen? He would abandon me in the field ministry. He would go off and do his own thing. Eventually, I stopped putting my name down. Eventually, I just went, I'm not going to work with this person. The jerk. Sick of it. I had really tried with this person. But you're getting the picture. Matt, you didn't fit in, did you, at all? And so it's not a unique experience. Many are reporting similar kinds of things. This egotistical thing that happens. And yeah, I must say that if I play videos of my own life, I am quite sure that there are plenty of embarrassments and arrogant situations because, yeah, I was following the direction. I was following the psychology. I was a representative of Watchtower and Bible Tract Society of New York and Pennsylvania, and I'm still not even convinced that that's struck off. I think they're holding things on because of fiduciary worries or whatever. So the question and the answer: refuse the illegal instruction, report it to authorities. So in South Africa, that's police. And I have been to police over the years, not once, many times. Or an appropriate body to protect yourself and others, because in my situation, I definitely was not safe. Still not safe. Others are not safe. But there's only so much that a human can do, but it's very important that documenting the instruction, recording, communication from the religious authority is very, very important. Happily, I've got that, been able to do that. So I've done that for a couple of reasons. 1, evidence. 2, for my own state of mind. Because I think what can happen is if a person is broken down, they can start doubting events. Or because so much happens, you can go back and you can go, did I, didn't I? Did I dream this? Didn't I? Memory is getting fragile. So it's very, very important to have that evidence locked away several places. Make sure that if you're broken into, that they'll never find it. Because that's another thing that happens. And that has happened to me before. I've had evidence. I've got to tell you, the sophistication with which evidence can be removed is phenomenal. I've got to tell you. There is a situation now where I look back and there was another liability, and I took photographs. And somehow they got to my photographs. I don't know how they did it. I've got an idea because I think they did it electronically. I saw once, it just happened once. I saw somebody using a Unix-based system or Linux-based system. And I saw this programming language running, and I saw trackers, and I was able to see not just myself, but paths of other Jehovah's Witnesses that were being recorded. And I was looking at this and I was going, wow, this is sophisticated. This is incredibly sophisticated that they have got this kind of technology deployed. This is astounding. And of course, when I tried to go back and see if that could be replicated, it was gone. I couldn't see that script running, and I couldn't see those programs running. It had removed itself. But because I had an IT background, and I'd worked in banks, and I'd worked in all kinds of parts of government and things like that, I knew enough to be able to recognize, ooh, this is one of those programs that's running. Because when you work for banks or you work for these networking companies and things like this, you've got to become familiar with all the different tricks. And so you go to these workshops and you see, okay, this is the latest and greatest in criminal activity or espionage or whatever, or you get called into a place like a bank or a government and they tell you you've got a problem and we're hiring you to sort out the problem. Well, you have got to be the top of your game. And they might tell you, yeah, you've got to take an oath of secrecy, but help us with this problem. This is our service level agreement or our contract with you, and you've got to do it. So that was part of my job. And so I was able to see, okay, yeah, this is what's going on. And I can also see how many persons would have that appear on their device or their computer or their cell phone or whatever, and it wouldn't mean anything to them. But it meant something to me. I could see, okay, yeah, this is it. And then the next thing I see, photographs have gone, disappeared. And I just go, wow. Expertly done. You didn't even have to break into my room. Although that's happened. I mean, I've gone through all kinds of paranoid things. I've had cameras set up and I've had little things put in place where I can see, has somebody been in my room? Yep, absolutely. I've seen that. So what would be a good protocol for safely handling situations where a religious leader has ordered an illegal act and used coercive methodology to get us to be afraid that we don't report them, or like a hazing ritual to comply with them and say, okay, yeah, we're all pals, let's go have a beer together and give each other a high five because, yeah, now you can see I'm in the club and I am prepared to go to prison for you because you're a stupid idiot or a stupid moron, or you are an egotistical, pharisaical, pedantic, self-righteous, awful character, and I want to be just like you. Well, this video is about what we should do legally, I hope. It's about what to do when we are put into a situation that we know is ethically wrong. If you want to grow spiritually, as one of my good friends says, or I'm good friends with them, says, if you want to grow spiritually and make a step forward to growing spiritually, take 3 steps towards ethics. So if a local congregation authority in South Africa tries to punish or coerce somebody like myself, besides others, to commit an illegal act, link the police in. So like myself, I might say, oh, I need elders that are loyal. Can you witness this? Not a single elder wants to. Not a single congregant wants to witness what's going on because they're afraid. So I had to find persons, kind of begrudgingly, who would be witnesses, but I managed to do it. And they saw what was happening and they go, oh, yeah, okay, yep, we definitely can see this. But I also had to go to police and go, can you witness what's going on, please? No, I don't want to get involved. Well, I'm not asking you, I'm now doing it. I'm tying you in. You can see what's happening. If you want to be a police person, you want to uphold the law, you want to have a good reputation, well, here it is. Be a witness, and from what I comprehend, do your job. So, let the crime or the coercion occur in front of the police watching. And then several legal principles come into play. Here's some of them. I'll try and number them. 1. What do my notes say? Illegal coercion and intimidation. Right? Here it is. So any attempt to force somebody to commit a crime or punish them for refusing is itself potentially criminal. Haha. Who would have thought that? Because they'll deny that. They'll deny that that's criminal. I've even had police say to me, oh no, that's not criminal. That's free speech. That's freedom of religion. Let's repeat. Illegal coercion and intimidation. Any attempt to force somebody to commit a crime or punish them for refusing is itself potentially criminal. Why? Because it's your gang coming on to your house, coming to your house, knock, 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 uninvited. You have to obey us to be part of the club. You want protection? You want our protection? Well, you better do what we tell you. You don't want people vandalizing your car? You better do what we tell you. You don't want little kids coming and hugging you and you getting sick because we know you got an immune problem? Well, you better do what we tell you. Oh, you want to stay in this area or not get reassigned some? You better do what we tell you. And maybe we'll consider it. Look, after so many years, you realize that all of these carrot dangling things are just empty promises. So when they're doing this, when there's illegal coercion and intimidation, that is a threat. It acts as a threat. It's an assault. This is why Norway is saying, oh, this is psychological assault, or this is psychological harassment, psychological violence. Or if you're sent to another country, or you're sent to some school or something, or they take away your passport, or they say, oh, no, we've just had, how do they frame it? We think your passport's vulnerable, so let us look after it. We've had incidents where passports disappear, so give it to us, along with others. So that can be considered an unlawful detention. It starts getting very fuzzy, this thing about human trafficking. Right? Yeah, man, it gets complex, eh? But in South Africa, technically speaking, these are offences under South African law. If you've got the right kind of mind, they can see, oh, yo, Matt, yeah, this ain't good. You should actually report this, regardless of the perpetrator's religious role. So it's a coordinator, it's a circuit overseer, it's a branch committee member, or it's a local body of elders that's telling you to do this. They'll tell you, regardless of that person's religious role. Regardless if the police are scared about it or lawyers are scared, it's wrong. On South African soil, it's wrong. So when it's witnessed by police, which is what happened here, if the police witness the coercion or the punitive actions, elders just go ahead and do it, right? They enforce. What should actually happen? Well, the police are legally obliged to intervene. Sometimes it just happens, and it happens in front of police, and your congregation goes ahead and does it. But at least it's on record. At least it's on record. And you know, this thing about time marches on, but time can also be a revealer. You know, maybe the situation wasn't quite right, but now you've got a record, you can go back. People say, yeah, but what about statutes of limitations? You got a record. This is about also being selfless and going, yeah, well, maybe I don't face justice, but let's get it out there and endeavor to make people more aware so that they have justice, so that they are protected. Right. So sometimes you just got to let go, and you got to go, yeah, it didn't quite go in my favor, but what's the mission? My mission is what it's always been: uphold supreme ethics to the extent I possibly can. So when a crime or coercion or disciplinary action is now witnessed by police, and police fail to act, it could be addressed through internal police accountability. Okay, there are mechanisms that are in place. Whether those work in South Africa, whether you just get phone numbers that ring off the hook, or people that are just not manning their stations, theoretically, there's an internal police accountability mechanism. So it also depends on the severity of the witnessed offence. So they might look at that and go, yeah, Mr. Gray, that isn't a priority. Sad it's happened, but we've got to actually look after this situation, and our resources are tied up in far bigger matters, which I think deductively that's what's happening in South Africa. Police are just inundated with terrible crimes and things like that, so that they look at this one and they go, no, it's not a priority. We'll acknowledge it, but it goes to the bottom of the pile. Come, let's go to this room. See this? All of these cases we got to go through. And so, yeah, I've been to some police stations and I've just seen the amount of work that is there is just backlogged tremendously. But anyway, still get it in there. Make sure that you keep your records. Put those records in there. Get all the numbers, case numbers. Get copies of things. Get it witnessed. Get it receipted. Because, yeah, I believe the time is coming when there is going to be accountability mechanisms that were put in place that are going to come into effect. And these things are adding up. They are adding up. So keep your evidence of collected statements. Here's another one. CCTV footage or audio recordings. Keep that. Keep phone call recordings. Those are good. It strengthens any future criminal or civil case. I learned of somebody who, yeah, you've got to be careful with this, but they kept a microphone in a book. And, oh yes, elders saw it and they said, oh, what are you doing? Oh, no, I'm recording. And so they opened it up and he says, oh, you're afraid of this? And anyway, so they said, yeah, right, now we're going to continue. But there was other recorders, other people witnessing. So yeah, you got to be shrewd about it, and you got to also take accountability for that, because they can try to also prosecute you for going against so-called confidentiality. They'll tell you, oh, that was confidential. We're going to attack you for breaking confidentiality. But a crime is a crime is a crime is a crime, folks. So, look, with my presentation, I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just saying these are things to think about with essential critical thinking. Right or wrong, this is put on the table, as an education, and you can think it over. Use healthy skepticism. What do I say? Thesis and antithesis for synthesis. So, third point, no religious immunity. South African law does not protect religious authorities from prosecution when they violate the law. So even if the act contradicts the organization's top leadership, the local authority can be held accountable. But what about protection for the target? What about me? I'm a target. In my perception, I have felt targeted. Man, I've had enough things happen to me over the years. Yes, I am a target. Okay? It's not just paranoia. Well, it might be some, but I have been a target, absolutely. So the person being coerced has the right to refuse illegal instructions without fear of lawful punishment. Well, I'll tell you this now. My fears are founded because I know that there's these delays. So I go, oh man, I can't move around freely. I can't do this. I can't do that. So yeah, I am in a form of exile in a way. I've got to be very careful about where I move around, and I've got to have my wits about me to the extent possible, because I know through bitter experience that, man, I am vulnerable. But there is supposed to be protection for the target. If there's any ongoing threat, the person can seek immediate police protection. It helps if you have a lot of money in the bank, because if you don't, you are going to struggle like hell to get anywhere, right? Or to effect anything. But you can get restraining orders or protection orders under the Domestic Violence Act if it's applicable. Document the threats of coercion for any future legal proceedings. So, local body of elders, get ready. There is a whole bunch of stuff sitting with police knowing exactly what you've done. Better produce some phenomenal counter argument. It's going to be incredible to see what you are going to say. Point 5. Internal religious disputes. So while the religious organization might have internal disciplinary procedures, these do not override criminal law. Let them remove you. Let them take away your privileges of service. Who are they? They've disqualified themselves spiritually. That's the reality. Those aren't elders. They might say they are, but they could claim anything. They could claim that they're Snow White or Tarzan. They can do all sorts of things. It doesn't mean that that's necessarily true. This one's sitting in the congregation. He says he's an elder. Is that true? Technically speaking, by the New World Translation Bible, they have gone outside of their jurisdiction. They have gone beyond their mandate. So the key takeaway is that religious leaders who try to punish or actually do punish or force somebody into illegal behavior, even in the presence of police, that leader themselves can be criminally liable. We say alleged, we say potentially. But the person targeted is legally justified to refuse, report, and seek protection. I've done that. Document it, witness it to the extent you can. If it's not perfect, it's not perfect. Okay? Oh, we live in an era of AI. Yeah, some can say that the AI that's been deployed to most people is toys. And I agree, it is toys. But it's also fairly helpful as well. And you could use several AIs and come up with a plan. Right? Get a precise legal playbook on what to do, documenting, responding safely to such situations in South Africa, Ireland, wherever, including the steps for police engagement and evidence preservation, right? Very important. So it's very useful if the religious leader is attempting retaliation. So with what we've considered, how can we just permit and allow a religion to just repeatedly send two men, sending another two men, uninvited to the house? They rock up, they say, oh, if I don't agree with the crime, they tell me, oh, you've got to obey. Why? Because it's God's arrangement, it's His authority in them. If they say beat your children with loving corporal punishment, oh yeah, well, publicly we'll say, oh, we don't force you to do anything. Privately we do. We have the right to discipline. All right. You're not allowed to record what we're telling you because we don't want the local congregation to see what thugs we are. Right. And so when they announce that a person like myself is removed ambiguously, they just do it, and you go, what are you guys doing? Right. Oh, I've also had the situation where they say to me, do you want to be an elder? I say no, and they make me an elder anyway. So I realize, okay, this is all about manipulation. And like they say, I am their property, organization property. As one circuit overseer says, he says, Matt, you have no will of your own. Get it in your head. You have no will of your own. Say it. Say the words. I have no will of my own. Very good. Say it again. So, people watching this, they say, Matt, you have had your backside kicked. What were you doing? Having your backside kicked. I was trying to protect others. I was trying to protect family. I was trying to be selfless, all right? So they've done all this. They damaged my reputation. It's not the first time I've had a damaged reputation for years. So what? So they've done all this, damaged my reputation by their actions. They still try to force my compliance, even with police copied in. I mean, that's the arrogance. They're going, yeah, we don't care. Police are copied in. They might be angry for a while, but they're going, nah, it doesn't matter. We are too powerful. Police will crumble in the might of Jehovah's hand, our hand. So it's unacceptable, right? It's unlawful under South African law. It's contrary both to the Constitution and basic principles of justice, and it's against the governing body, Jeffrey Jackson. It's coercion, it's intimidation. The religious body is sending men to the home uninvited, pressuring me to commit a crime, beat children with loving corporal punishment, threatening death or organizational punishment if I refuse. And that is called criminal coercion, ladies and gentlemen and others. It is potentially intimidation under the Intimidation Act 20. What is it? Wrong. 72. 72 of 1982. So those aren't just religious visits. They are unlawful acts of pressure designed to violate rights and safety. So even implying that I will be killed, or directly saying, well, at Armageddon, you're going. Bye. Or implying that you'll be killed by one of the governing body. It crosses into criminal threat territory. And you look at annual meetings, you look at videos of governing body, they're going, yeah, we're looking forward to it. So their discipline has no legal standing. So announcing a removal, well, they can announce anything. They can announce that they're the Pope of Italy or the Vatican if they want. But announcing my removal as punishment for refusing an illegal act and doing it in a sneaky way, you know, where it isn't above board, where they're going, oh, well, you didn't come to a meeting. Go, when did that happen? Oh, we communicated. Where is that communication? Show me. You better have it. You better have it. Announcing that removal as punishment for refusing an illegal act is defamation and psychological abuse. We're coming back to Norway. They want to change that law. They're trying to change that law. They have changed that law. Psychological violence. Religious freedom under the Constitution, Section 15, protects belief and worship, but not the power to abuse or defame others. Internal discipline has no legal authority once it crosses into harassment, coercion, and reputational harm. So, they say they've approached me multiple times. I know they have. I know that they've done that. They've approached me multiple times with this thing over the years. Didn't play ball, and I tried and tried. Took it to the top authorities. multiple times, after clear refusal, after bamboozlement, after, oh, we don't have the time, or, oh no, can you talk to this person? Oh no, we've processed it. Whatever has happened, right? It becomes clear refusal. It is harassment when they are approaching me and saying, oh no, we're going to take disciplinary measures upon you. So under the Protection from Harassment Act 17 of 2011, that's what it is. It's harassment. So police witnessing the charges, or police witnessing the events, right, is very, very important. Because if police are copied in to communications or physically present, and they take no action, they can be held accountable for failing to intervene or protect me for upholding the law. And I've got a right to submit a formal complaint to Independent Police Investigation Directorate, what is it, IPID, if officers fail to act on clear criminal intimidation. So I have the right to open a criminal case against the individuals who threatened or harassed you, or at least to say, right, look, maybe police didn't quite know the story. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt, because they'll invariably pull that one. Well, you want their cooperation, so work with them. But the plain fact of the matter is there's grounds for formal action. So given the description of what's happened, there's several routes. Criminal complaint, intimidation, harassment, threats, coercion, defamation. Protection orders, that's another thing. So under the Protection from Harassment Act, through local magistrate court, you can effect that. I've had to do this in the past. Had somebody that wanted to abuse a child, and we put a restraining order upon that person. Yeah, I don't regret that. Not at all. Protect that child. Formal communication to the SAPS, South African Police Station, branch commander or services, police services, PS. The branch commander, make a formal communique to confirm that further uninvited contact from these men is unauthorized, it's unsafe. Trust me, it's unsafe. It's not safe. We love you. It's unsafe. We don't want to harm you. It's unsafe. You've had your chances, folks. Over the years, yes, I have got to this stage. I am not getting my butt kicked anymore. Can't do it. Physically, I can't do it. Mentally, I can't do it. Emotionally, spiritually, I can't do it. And then there's civil action. So if there's reputational damage, get a civil action done. And so now let's go on to spiritual and ethical things. So there's nothing in true faith, Christian or otherwise, that justifies the beating of children or the coercion into crime. So what these men and women, by the way, are invoking is false spiritual authority. It's weaponized to override conscience and law. Those actions directly contradict both their own supposed headquarters positions and universal moral code they claim to uphold. If the governing body says to me, Matt, you have done right, fabulous. If the governing body goes against me and says, no, Matt, we disavow, then I go, well, then you're not loyal to your own people. What can I do? And so what do we do? What do we do now? Do we need help to draft clear factual statements to South African police services or for a detective warrant officer? Yeah, get the help. Use AI if necessary. Go to legal people. See if you can get help from them. Summarize the incidents. Check it, because remember, they might lose nuances. I've seen that. You go to somebody who says that they are a legal authority or that they know what they're doing. They don't. I've seen. They put in terminology and you're going, oh, do I just accept this because I'm exhausted? You go and you take a pen and you scratch out what doesn't apply, and you say, look, that's a trap, that's a legal trap, that's a legal trap. Got to educate you about Jehovah's Witnesses. Got to educate you. You don't know the terminology. That you're falling into a trap. You think that your lawyer's certificate's going to save you. No, it's going to make it worse. Okay. So can we work together on this? Get your pen. Scratch out what doesn't apply and explain why. Structure the notice of religious coercion and retaliation. Work with the professionals. Legal style letters. Make those documents of what's happening. The request to the police for protection, and get formal acknowledgements. Get it in writing. Don't just have it verbal. Have it in writing. Have it witnessed. Frame the matter in terms of constitutional rights, criminal intimidation, failure of duty if the police remain passive. This is not permitted. I've been wanting to try and make these more forceful, but it's also a careful balance of trying to not come across as the lunatic, and it's pretty hard. So sometimes I get it right, sometimes not. But it's not to be permitted. And to be appalled by it is permitted. As Jehovah's Witnesses, to be appalled, to show that you've got some kind of emotion. They attack you for that. So it is absolutely right to be appalled by this situation. Why? Because this is about principle. It's a deep principle. It's a lawful position. And technically speaking, it is what Jehovah's Witnesses should be about. Jeffrey Jackson, when he was talking about this, I was going, yeah, I'm on your side, Jeffrey. So this is a serious breach of the rule of law. It's a betrayal. It's not merely a religious dispute. So thank you very much for being with me on this presentation. Perhaps it's a repeat of things, but I thought that this one was needed so that we can just get some clarity, more clarity about what this is. I think I wanted to frame this as a street gang type of thing. If you listen to us, we will give you a means of life. If you don't, we are going to give you the path of death. That's the threat. And misery up to that point. In fact, actually what that child said to me when I had to beat them lawfully in that place and at that time, is, I'm going to kill you. So I hope that these elders, this branch, whoever's involved, circuit overseers, even if it's governing body who are giving me a hard time and I just don't quite know it yet, I'm hoping that they will come to their senses. I'm a restorationist at heart. I really do wish that this would have a good outcome. I really do wish for it. So I suppose I'm saying that because I don't like this idea of hatred. I don't think that is a good path. I am a believer in forgiving. I really think if there is a way to do that, do it. But as somebody warned me, said, be very careful about just forgiving. You've got to hold people to account, and if they're not asking for mercy, if they haven't done things properly, you've got to be very careful because you might be facilitating them harming other people as well. So yeah, I realize that you've got to be careful with that. Friends, family, thank you very much. Again, here is my emphasized disclaimer. This is educational. It's for analysis. It's for psychologists to look at. It's for lawgivers and enforcement agencies to take a look at and ascertain, Matt, are you telling us the truth or are you crazy? Yeah, thesis, antithesis for synthesis, and have a healthy skeptical viewpoint of this. All right, thank you for being here, and I wish for a better society. Let's mitigate things to the extent that we possibly can for a better society, for better religions under this gift of freedom to practice religion, the gift of free expression and free speech. Let's do it with ethics and see if we can build a better world that is able to last. Thank you again for being with me.